we might hear a message at a church that says that we should go volunteer, and that if you love God, your works are what's evident of your faith, and this and that, and you feel like I'm not doing enough, and so you put that demand on yourself. Which, going back to Coffee Rush, these orders keep coming in, these customers keep coming up, and
Mm.
it's like, oh man, if I don't fulfill this thing, they're gonna be unhappy, and as a people pleaser, I need to keep them happy. Hey, what's up, CBG fam? Thanks for tuning into this episode. As always, we are brought to you by our sponsors. That is Fearless Nonprofit. Fearless Nonprofit is a growing outreach ministry that seeks to fearlessly treat the world in a way that encourages love, family, and faith in Jesus. And very exciting, out now is their biblically based trading card game, Victory 7. Yes, the one that we have been talking about is available now. So if you want to learn more about this ministry, or if you like to pick up the game, go to fearlessnonprofit.org. We also are sponsored by Camp Living Waters, the one, the only Camp Living Waters located in Luther, Michigan, that is home of the Game Changer Board Gaming Retreat. Man, they have so much to offer there, and it's an amazing place to get away in God's presence. So if you want to learn more about them or sign up for a retreat, check them out at camplivingwaters.org. You can follow both of our sponsors on their socials on Facebook and Instagram. Huge shout out and thank you to our sponsors.
Welcome to the Christian Board Gamers Podcast, where we focus on Jesus, community, and board games. Let's have some fun.
What is up, everybody? Hey, you are listening to the Christian Board Gamers Podcast, brought to you by Love Thy Nerd. Man, we are excited for today, about to see what's happening. What do we got happening here? I'm going to tell you what we got happening here. First off, Joe, how are you today?
Fantastic. It's so good to be on WBBBBBBBBL. I love that. We're, instead of being proud members of the Love Thy Nerd Podcast Network, we are just brought to you by Love Thy Nerd.
That's right.
That's so
yes,
good.
Christian Board Gamers Podcast, powered by Love Thy Nerd. That's what we're doing today. Yeah, man. Hey, so anyways, little turn of events here. I'm starting us out. I love it. I'm excited. It's a good day. We got a great podcast for the people out here. And we're excited to see where we go with it. But first, Joe, I understand that you came back. You were just on a trip seeing your gamma.
Yeah, I'm seeing my gamma. What is your interpretation of that, Ray?
I thought like you were saying, I'm going to see my gamma, see how she's doing. Maybe a visit to see she had some candy or a treat for you. She needed you something nice. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, my gamma is doing real good. I call her my Nana. She's doing well, and she is a vegetarian, has been as long as I've known her, and all she eats is literally like veggies and sweets. So you go to her house, there's guaranteed to be a dozen donuts chilling at the house. I don't even know, bro. She looks the same as she did when I was a kid, so it's working.
I like that line that you just put in there. All she eats is veggies and sweets. I need you to put that in a dope rap battle.
Yeah, the
at
reality
some point in the future.
The reality is I got this mentality, so I can sit down and see this. That's all I got, man. Not for right now. I'm too tired to freestyle, but yeah.
We're gonna get there though. We're gonna get there though in this episode. I promise you. The veggies and sweets is all she eats. Is gonna come back at some point, but we don't know. But Joe, tell me about your gamma. What happened at?
So I went to the Gamma Expo in Kentucky.
Okay, there it is.
The Gamma Expo. The Gamma. I went to the Gamma House. To Gamma's Expo. I can't even say it now. I went to the Gamma Expo. We expoed at Gamma, and dude, it was fire, man. What's cool about this is that it's a show where you have a lot of publishers, a lot of manufacturers, and different types of companies there, and it's not like a show where you've got a ton of people that are all going to buy board games and play board games. This is actually like an industry show, which is really dope. So the pace was way slower, which was awesome. And so I went with Love Thy Nerd, and we went and we served All Play, and we served Roxley, which was really cool. So we had people that were at those booths, and they were just talking to people, giving people high level, demos, if you will, of the game, talking through the product, because those who are there that aren't publishers or anything like that, they're media content creators, they're retailers. So you have tons of game stores.
Okay.
Which was so cool. So you have a lot of game stores. Actually, our local game cafe out here, Voss Media, who you've heard us talk about before, I ran into Dion and had tons of conversation with him, which was awesome. So he's there. He's trying to see, like, what's the new game? What's out ahead? What should I be paying attention to? That kind of stuff, right? And so your pace is a lot slower. People are just there to, like, they want to learn stuff. They're having conversation. It's not just like, hey, what's the thing? And I got to buy it. Or, hey, let's play this game. No, it's literally like, yo, like, what do you have coming out? What's going on? And so one of the things that I did with Luke, who's our director of community, we went around and we just started talking with booths, sharing what we're doing with Love Thy Nerd, right? That we, and also like asking if anyone would consider donating to help build up our game libraries, because we use game libraries. Like I, pack up my collection and go to the Game Changer retreats. So we talked about the Game Changer retreats, and we talked about, Luke, doing local conventions in the area, and they're asking for the LTN library. So like these kind of things. So we were asking people for like donations, and then we were telling them like what we do and how we do it, and people would ask varying levels of questions, which is really cool. And so like really slow down pace, really awesome. And I don't want to spend too much time here just because it was just a really great trip, very different to normal LTN trips, but it was my first time at Gamma's house there. And so but it was just a really great experience. And I had a lot of really rich conversation, a lot of just great faith-based conversation. It was like believers just kept popping up and I'm having the conversation. And I got to meet a lot of like the people that you would see in the, the social media space, right? Like all of the board game influencers that were there, and you're just meeting people, talking with people, having a great time. But literally, I'm at the Roxley booth. I was helping our team. They had a break or whatever, and so Luke and I were watching the booth while they went out to lunch and had some time to walk around. We're getting ready to like leave the booth, and all of a sudden this guy was like, "Bro, do you recognize me?" And I was like, I don't.
Question.
Yeah,
I don't know you.
Yeah, I was like, I don't. And he was like, he goes, he said Miracle Camp. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. He's like, you speak there a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I used to speak there a lot. And he was like, I was on staff. Now he's starting to look familiar, but I wasn't quite connecting it. But I was just like, whatever, man. We have a contact from back in the day. We must have met. I spoke at Miracle Camp a lot. And so there was just, this guy. And now we're just starting to have conversations. Like he's sharing what he's doing in the board gaming industry, where he takes videos and photos for board game companies and like all the stuff that he does. And then all of a sudden, like we're just start talking faith, and he was just like, how do you like navigate the waters of people that you're just kind of ideologically opposed to, right? Like in the church and outside of it. And we just had this 45-minute conversation right there, like right to the side of the Roxley booth about this, how to minister to people in a real and genuine, authentic way that can meet them in the space that they're in. And we can talk through hard topics and relational driven ministry, right? Which is like my thing. That's what LTN does. That's what we do. Well, that's what I believe Jesus' model is primarily. And I tell, it's like, I tell people, like, people are like, well, Jesus spoke to the crowds publicly. Yes, but he spoke as one with authority. He had it. He had the respect. He had the reputation. He didn't just start randomly speaking to crowds. He came, and then they would be like, wow, this man speaks as one with authority. His reputation preceded him. And then as he continued in his ministry, he gained more influence, and he had that ability to be able to teach in the public spheres, like, where people were listening to him. Most of what Jesus did, though, when you look at it, it was relational, ordinary rhythms, right? And we'll unpack this a little bit more as we go, even still. This is just my heartbeat, Ray. I know it's your heartbeat. It's what we want to do. We want to just pour into people's lives. And so we were just talking through all that. And at the end, he was like, man, like, thank you for like a pastoral, edifying response. He's like, this was actually a really edifying time. I'm really glad I just like randomly ran into you. And I was like, how stinking cool is that, right? Like, and we, So we're in the, I mean, obviously you're in the middle of a show floor, and now you're just
Which
talking
is
about.
like a wild place to have such a deep conversation about
Yeah.
something that is super deep. You're
Hmm.
talking about ideologically being opposed to other people and how you handle that in
Yeah.
a board game space. That's not the
Yep.
conversations that you think would happen
No.
in that area.
Yeah.
So
And that's
that's
what I'm
awesome.
saying. And that's, yeah, you always got to be prepared, right? You never know when a conversation is going to strike up. And we just
Right.
had, like I said, we just had a really great convo, and it was just awesome. Like it was like one of those things that really blessed me, and just like him, he really wanted to know. Like it was like a genuine, like, hey, I follow you a little
Mm,
bit on social media. And so it was a question that I felt was very much like one that someone could ask me if they've watched what I talk about, or like
hmm.
they see those things. Like it wasn't outfield or out at left field that regard.
Yeah, yeah.
And so
He knows
just,
that this is, yeah,
yeah,
personally something about you, that
yeah, right.
the space that you're in, and yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so it was really, really cool. And then, another thing that happened is, like, we were getting ready to wrap up, and one of the ladies that was on mission with us, I told her, I said, hey, when you go back into your spaces, like, you can, you can always be recruiting for LTN, because now you've done the trip and you can talk to people a little bit about what it's like, and you can do that kind of stuff. I said, but just remember, like, as a Christ follower, it's like you're always on mission, right? Like, ministry is life,
Mm,
life is ministry. And she looked at me and she's like, that's exactly what God, like, unlocked for me this weekend. And I
mm,
was like, what happened? And she said, man, like, the first day when I put the Roxley shirt on and I went downstairs to breakfast, it hit me that as I move throughout the day wearing this Roxley shirt, like, everything I say and do affects the reputation of that company because I'm representing them. And I was
mm.
like, yeah. And she's like, and then I thought the same thing about my Love Thy Nerd lanyard and the Love Thy Nerd shirt. And so when I'm not wearing the Roxy shirt and I have the LTN stuff on, that, like, how I move, what I say, what I do, it affects the reputation of Love Thy Nerd. And I was like, yeah. And she goes, and then it hit me like a ton of bricks. She goes, I walk around as an image bearer of the king, and everything I say or do affects the reputation of my father. Like, dude,
Mm,
talk about, like, this, just boom moment where she was
right.
just like, it just clicked, like, in my
So
head.
true.
And it's like stuff like, she's like, I know it like, I know it, I understand it, but she's like, it just hit me so
Yeah.
different. And she's like, she's just like that much more fired up to be like, I'm in this space. This is what we're doing, because everywhere I go, I'm an image bearer, and I am a Christ follower, and therefore, like, what I say, what I do, that's like the reputation that I am showing out regarding my father. And I'm like, man, talk about a moment. And, like,
Yeah.
again, it's that same booth. We are at that same Roxley booth where we're
Man.
having this conversation. So
That
apparently
booth
that was
was
the
like,
space.
yeah, like when Jacob laid his head down on the
Right.
rock, man, and it was
Yeah.
like angels coming up and down from the ladder. It's like,
It was
wow,
that
okay.
was that
The,
was the space.
the booth was the thin space at the Gamma's house, man. Who knew?
Yeah, I know. I wouldn't have
Yeah.
known.
That's amazing. Just for a second, I want to think about that as us being image bearers of God. That
Hmm.
we know that we're made in His image. That's something that we say and that we speak about, but how that would impact us if we thought that all the time. Because I'm like
Yeah.
guilty of it. The walking around and thinking more about myself in certain moments and what I look like. How I'm expressing my love to Jesus and what other people think about that. If I'm at work, if I'm talking too much about Jesus, they probably don't want to hear it, from
Sure.
time to time. And I'm like, but who cares if I look at myself and my life as truly I am an image bearer of God, the one
Hmm.
living true God. He put his thumbprint on me, and that's what people see. How does that affect what I do and how I live my life, man? I love when you were telling me that story. Just that was my thought in that,
Yeah.
and how we should go out, and all of us as professing faith and being Christians following Jesus
Hmm.
think like the things that I do, the things that I say, the way that I conduct myself in the public space
Yeah.
is how people are going to view, ultimately my God,
Yep.
because I say that I represent him.
Hmm.
So
100%.
yeah, that's
100%.
awesome.
Yeah, and again, there's one other moment that really stood out to me. And again, we had a ton of conversations, lots, which was really dope. But one that really stood out was a gentleman that had come to a Game Changer retreat, which was cool. Like, he had come to, like, the family one. We just did one family one. We decided we were gonna just not do that for
Mm,
right now, but we did the one
mm-hmm.
family when he came out with his family. And so we got to meet or whatever. He said he heard my voice when he had walked in, like he could just hear it, but he didn't know where I was. Ironically, I could see him in that moment, but he couldn't see me. And so he kept going, but he's like, I heard we ended up running into each other later in the middle of the whole show. And he was like, I heard your voice, man. I knew you were here. Like, and I was like, wow, I have that much of a voice that stands out. He's like, dude, I could pick you out of a crowd. I'm like, okay, that's fun. But then as we're leaving, or he was getting ready to leave last day, I'm like walking in and he's getting ready to walk out. And I was like, hey, dude, so good to see you again. He's like, thanks. He's like, if you would pray for me, like, I would really appreciate it. Here's what's going on in my world and all this kind of stuff. And I was just like, dude, can we pray right now? And he was like, yeah. And so we're like in the entrance of Gamma's house, right? We're in the entrance and, there's lots of people coming and going, right? And it's just like, again, this isn't like, hey, look what we did in public. Like, it was just this moment where it was like, we're going to step just off to the side and I'm going to pray. And if anything, someone could walk by that and be like, oh, that's really cool. Like those people are praying, or they're like, I can't believe that they're praying, or whatever the thing is. But it was like, but what I was thinking was like, man, like how cool that this guy that you meet at a Game Changer retreat, who's now at this convention, is like, hey, will you pray for me? And then to be like, yeah, let's pray right now. Like those kind of things to me, like that matters, right? Like that's not little. To be able to be trusted with information, which is dope, right? That people would want you to pray, and here's what's going on in their world. They're inviting you into that space. That's fantastic. But then also to literally just be able to stop in that moment and say, hey, let's pray now, right? Like let's just do it right now. Like why would we not do that? And to be able to pray and in the gaming space and like do all those kind of things. And I don't know, it's just really, really dope to be able to do that. Had a lot of fun, like I said, just a lot of really rich conversations and not just even faith-based, like a lot of really great game conversations, and got to play, a couple games with people and just hang out and have some fun and have a great time and just, awesome. Do some different things. So yeah, it was super fun, dude. Great experience.
That is great. I always enjoy when I get time to spend at my grandma's house too. It's always a good time. There's always a lot happening there. But no, seriousness, that's awesome, man. And these conventions are great, which leads me to we have a convention coming up here right in our backyard in Luther, Michigan. The Board Gamer Game Changing Retreat. It's coming up 2 weeks?
It just changed its name like 4 times. The board game and extravaganza of extravaganzas. Like,
that's right. Hey, all you have to do is go on over there to camplivingwaters.org and sign up, and you can be part of the Game Changing Board Gamer Retreat in Camp Living Waters in Luther, Michigan.
This is such a good drop, dude. So good. You can be a part of the game-changing extravaganza of extravaganzas that does the thing, but that is true information. You can go to camplivingwaters.org. That's camplivingwaters.org, and you can sign up for the Game Changer Board Gaming Retreat. And we would love to have you there. I'm excited. It's going to be a fantastic time. We've got a good grip of people already registered. This is one that I'll be sharing the word at, which is cool to have that opportunity. I'm very much looking forward to that. And naturally, we're going to be talking about discipleship and evangelism because that's what I talk about, and all that jazzerific jazz. But just really, really excited. I love hanging out during those times. I think it's so fun to be able to play games with people. So, that's camplivingwaters.org.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Sign up, man. Come have some of those rich conversations and see what God can do in that space while you're there.
No doubt. Fantasticness. So, this is cool. So Ray and I had the opportunity to play some Fliptoons and play Coffee Rush, and we brought in the one and only Michael Burns, who joined us online. I just saw that he was like on BGA. I'm like, Ray, we can ask Michael to join us, and he was like, yeah, I'm down. So we got to play again using the old Discord voice channels. Calling Ray's phone, calling Michael's phone. It was good, and just had a great time.
Yeah, it was. It was a good evening of gaming, and fellowship, and laughing.
It was plenty of that going on. And,
as it always is.
And Ray and I were just like talking about how one of us was gonna win in Fliptoons and how we were doing this thing, and then all of a sudden, like Michael just snuck up and won and couldn't figure out why. It was like, what the heck?
silent assassin in the
Yeah.
game, man. And we
Yep.
were like, well, somebody's got 23 points already. Somebody's here, there. And then it
Yeah.
was like, oh, flip. And, of course, on BGA, once again, like it does everything for you.
Yeah.
So, and Mike was like, hey, if you just hit the refresh button, then it happens much more quickly and can see the results. And so you hit the refresh and it's like, oh, I won. He's
Yeah.
just like, oh, that's great, Michael. Yeah, thanks for telling us.
It was very funny, dude. It was a very, very good time. And
Yeah, it
then
was.
and then I ended up taking the win in Coffee Rush,
Yep.
which was fun. But
Yeah.
they're really fun games. I played a lot of Fliptoons lately. I even was speaking at a camp last weekend, so right before going to Gamma's house, I spoke at a camp out in Wisconsin and played Fliptoons with a couple of the staff there, and we had a blast. They were like, "Oh my gosh, like this game is great," and I'm like, "I know, dude, it's a lot of fun.
It
Love seeing
is.
the combos, love how it goes. That's a game I will continue to play just because it's quick, it's easy. I can teach it very quickly, and it's just a really great time at the table. And it's ironic because one of the guys was like, "Man, he's like, I love finding games like this because." He's like, I like the heavier strategy games, but not everyone just wants to sit down at those. So it's nice to have more games like this that you can draw people in with into the hobby and all that kind of stuff, and like be able to sit down and actually play a quick game. And so super good. They were like taking pictures, like definitely buying this one. I was like, yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
But like as we were sitting there, it's kind of thinking, and about the episode and what we were doing, it was like, man, there's a really cool bit of things going on from a faith-based dynamic when we look at Fliptoons and when we look at Coffee Rush, and that might seem weird, right? Like, but that's what we want to do on the podcast. Like we do it from time to time. We did a lot early on, and we want to really bring this stuff back and really be talking about the games that we're playing, not just from like what is this game, how fun was the game and all that, but how can we learn something regarding our walk with Jesus from these games. And I'm a firm believer that there's generally going to be something in a game that you're going to be able to draw out that has like some level of faith nugget or application in the space. And so
absolutely.
I think there's so much to it. And so and also, being able to be creative and dynamic. And so we're kind of looking at this idea of being like built or busy, right? You have these two different dynamics where you have Fliptoons, which is a deck builder, right? You're drawing, you have your 6-card tableau. You're trying to dismiss cards. You're trying to get new cards into your deck, and you're using this fame tracker that you have, and you're spending fame in order to get new people into your deck that do new things. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to have the highest amount of fame to win. So you're trying to build your TV show, your TV, network. So you have the greatest show that you have. And there's some really cool cards and great synergies. And in Coffee Rush, you're literally a barista and coffees are just coming like crazy. And you know what I mean? It's like, and if somebody completes an order, they're adding cards to your list and you're trying to get them. And if they fall off the bottom, then now your customers are angry. And that's going to happen because in the game, like it triggers its end game is going to be triggered when five I almost said 5 heroes, when five of the angry customers there come up, and then from there now it's like, oh, okay, the game ends, we tally up all of our points, blah blah blah, and you're moving around this little board collecting resources, try to fill up your coffee, and there's no room for mistake. If you accidentally put the wrong ingredient in the wrong cup, you've just wasted it. You can't go into the cup and like take it out and be like, oh, I messed that up. I mean, you could if you wanted to have grace at the table, but in reality, especially in BGA, there's no going back into the.
Not happening.
Although it does, I think it does let you reset. Like there is a complete reset, which is a little different, but but either way, it's frantic, right? Like the game is frantic, but it's not pandemic rapid response. It's not just chucking dice and going crazy. It just has a franticness where you're like, oh my gosh, I have to complete these orders or they're all going to fall off. And each angry customer I have is a negative point, and I don't have enough points to spare, and I'm upgrading things and I'm trying to do all this kind of stuff. And that's why it's called Coffee Rush, because the game is that. It's a rush. There's a ton of things going on in the game. And so looking at this idea of built or busy, right, and sort of from a question perspective, it's, are you walking in your calling or just keeping up with demand, right? Like, are you built or busy? right? So
Mm-hmm.
are you walking in your calling, or are you just keeping up with demand? And so again, Fliptoons asked that question, like, what are you building? What belongs? What needs to go? Where like Coffee Rush is, how well can you keep up with what is being demanded?
Yeah.
And this is a powerful spiritual contrast, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
this is two different dynamics of, okay, am I actually walking this out? Am I building this? What am I building? What belongs? What needs to go? What's staying? Versus, am I just keeping up with demand? And I think we could all be honest and say that, man, there's just times where I feel like we're just keeping up with demand.
That's right.
Um,
Yeah. You get put on autopilot. And even with Coffee Rush too, I almost look at it as a standpoint of what other people are asking of you to and
mm,
putting that demand on you that you're not putting on yourself. Because that happens a lot too, right? People, a lot of good things come your way and people ask you to be part of it or say, can you do this for me? And can you do that? And that demand is put on you by, let's say, those customers or which are people in the real world that are asking you to help them in their ministry or help them in their fundraising or help them
yeah.
with something around the house or volunteering. And sometimes that looks like on our selves that we are to we might hear a message at a church that says that we should go volunteer and that if you love God, your works are what's evident of your faith and this and that, and you feel like I'm not doing enough, and so you put that demand on yourself, which, going back to Coffee Rush, these orders keep coming in, these customers keep coming up, and
Mm,
it's like, oh man, if I don't fulfill this thing, they're going to be unhappy, and as a people pleaser, I need to keep them happy, and as a people pleaser in real life, I got to keep doing this thing to continue to show like my faith
mm,
is here or like I'm pleasing God. But all God actually asks of us is to sit down with him and abide
yeah.
and wait until he tells us what to do, right? And so like that demand, I was looking at it from that standpoint, right? Like
Yeah.
the demand that's put on us from other people. And like you said, in Coffee Rush, as you play the game, I fulfill an order and now you get more orders based on what I fulfill put on you. And now you're in more of a rush because I did something. How many
hmm
times in real life do we see somebody else accomplishing something else for the
Yeah.
kingdom and we feel like we're not doing enough?
Yeah. That's
You know
so
what I
good.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
bro, it's so real and so true, but
Mm.
we have to stay in our own coffee shop, if you will. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, just take care of what's there and not be worried about what other people are doing in theirs
Mm.
and how much that affects us. Because we are all called to different things and we all have different abilities, strengths, and different seasons, right? Like right now, I can't do everything. I have a baby at home. Like
Oh,
there's
for
so
sure.
much that I want to be part of and so much that I want to try to tackle and I feel bad and probably still say yes to more than I should, but it's like
Sure.
in reality, my ministry right now is to be here and raise this disciple in my home and be
hmm
here and make sure my wife's taken care of and make sure that, and it's like I can if I see you, Joe, doing all these amazing things and going to different cons and having amazing conversations with people and faith conversations and things online and organization. I'm like, gosh, that's great. I wish I could. I just don't have the capacity, but
Sure.
I can't put that demand on myself, And so
Yeah.
the rush for me is different, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. No, but that's super real. And again, like you said, sometimes that demand is thrusted on you, and then sometimes it's demand that you pick up because you feel like you're not doing enough or you're not doing the things, and we can get really bogged down with that. And again, I think I don't know if I talked about it at all, but I've shifted my mindset, and I don't really use the word busy anymore. I know we're using it
Mm,
here like built or busy, and that's to draw out the contrast. Most people would know what that means. But it's like, for me, like the switch came in where someone said, "Man, Joe, you're really busy," and then someone came up behind us and he said, "Nope, he's productive." And I was
mm.
like, "Oh, I love that," because the
Yeah,
guy
that's
the guy
good.
was basically drawing out this fact. He's like, "Nah, like Joe's on the move, like he's doing a lot of things, but he's being productive, like he's seeking to
That's
move the
good.
mission forward, right?" And I was like,
Yeah,
"I like that better than busy. Like I actually like this idea of being productive, right? Like
yeah.
I want to be more focused on what needs to be done and how can it be productive. Like I don't want to do the busy work." Right there, my strategy in Coffee Rush is literally let things fall off the plate
Mm.
and then focus where you can, right? Like, because again, if you try to focus on everything, you're going to go bananas in that game because you cannot physically
So
do it
true.
all. You just can't.
Yes.
So I'm
Yep.
like, okay, I'll assess the board and I'll realize, okay, I might be able to get this and this, but I am not going to be able to touch those three. There's just no way. I need the tea leaf and it's all the way on the other side of the board. And right now I don't have the right upgrade that I need to be able to get to that tea leaf. So it's just not going to work. Like
Yeah.
once I unlock the upgrade, maybe I'll have time. And like there just comes points where I'm like, I just have to let that fall. Right. That's something that has to come off the board. Similarly, in Fliptoons, is that not every good card belongs in your deck.
Yeah.
Right. So like in Fliptoons,
Preach,
right.
Joe,
Yeah.
preach.
But in Fliptoons, it's like I can have some good cards, but I need to get rid of them. Like this isn't, I don't keep everything. Like you dismiss the characters. So you pull them out and you do that strategically. And now you have your starting hand, and usually you're going to kind of prune through that pretty quickly. You're going to, sorry, I used Reborn language. You're going to prune it. You're going to do that, but that's going to come up in a second. But you're going through and you're strategically dismissing these things and you're building these synergies. And there's like a card in there. And it's the snake card. And what the snake card does is that when you draw it, you burn the top card of your deck. You dismiss the top card of your deck, and then you draw the top card of the tune deck, and then you stack it on top of the snake. And in early game, it's a great strategy to get rid of your starting cards. If the snake comes out early, get it, because then you can literally get rid of your starting cards, and then so you burn it, and then you're getting these good cards. When the snake is not good is later in the game, because now I'm burning through really good cards, and I'm like, oh, I didn't want to do that, and I might not get the right exchange. I mean, it's not the end of the world, but like, but again, like having that strategy of like, where am I at in this? And does this good card, which did really great things along the way, does it still need to be in my deck? And the answer might often be no, it doesn't. Like that was for a particular season, and I'm holding on to it. And we do this in our life, right? We hold on to roles, we hold on to these expectations, we hold on to good opportunities, and sometimes we need to let them go, right? Commitments is tough for me. Like you're gonna hold on to a commitment because you've made that commitment, but there could also be a time where that commitment needs to be dropped because it's like, hey, I know we've committed to this. However, in this season, it does not actually make sense in our life. And as a result, I got to let it go. Right? But like the synergy matters more than the, the accumulation. So the growth often requires that pruning. Right. Yes. And this is Jesus, John 15:2. Every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. And then the contrast, Hebrews 12:1, lay aside every weight, not just sin, but weight. Like, what are the things that you're carrying with you, right? Like, not everything is wrong, just not aligned, right? There are things that you might just be walking in that right now you just don't. Like you said, your season right now is way different. Our seasons, we're in different seasons completely. You know what I mean? Just as far as like how things are, right, in our lives and what we're doing. Now we're both productive, and we're both doing our thing. But I could look at you and be like, oh man, like Ray gets to do this, and you can look at me and be like, oh man, Joe gets to do this. And like you said, we got to stay in our own lane here. We got to stay in our own coffee shop and not look at the other person and be like, oh, they're doing so much. Like, because I look at, like, I could take your job and what you do in, like, saving people's lives and, like, helping, like, the heart procedures go through, which I could never do because I'd pass out. It would not work well. But again, I can look at that and be like, man, Ray is actively, saving people's lives out here. And then you could look at me and be like, oh, Joe's out at all these conventions and, like, spiritually, and all this kind of stuff. And we can get so wrapped up in that junk. Where we step into other people's coffee shops that we start picking up things that we just don't need to.
Absolutely. And looking at Fliptoons, man, I might look at your tableau and be like, dang, I wish I had enough to get that card. I want that card. I need that card. That card would benefit me so much if I had it, rather than just trying to make the synergy work with the cards that I have. That's like, oh man, you got the bull. I was really trying to save up to get the bull, and I was hoping and blah, blah, blah. But then if I'm focused on your tableau and what cards you have, and I'm missing out on how to best use my cards and the cards to prune, and so it's so important that we keep our eyes on our own deck here. You know what I mean? Because in life in general of what we have going on, and not, like you said, like Hebrews, we're putting weights on ourselves that aren't meant for us, and even more reason why we need to stay connected, abiding in God. I think in John there, actually, that first part says abide in me. It says abide in me, right? Like it's God is saying, stay here with me. That way I know and I can prune you, because if you don't abide in me, then you have no part of me. You're not going to be able to do anything, because apart from me, you can do nothing. And so that's where it's like, just go back and make it simple and spend that time and stop worrying about what everybody else has going on, what everybody else is doing, and trying to accomplish that. Like, if you don't know what you're supposed to be doing in life right now, or you feel burnt out, or you feel like you're being drawn in too many directions, whatever's happening, just go back to the beginning and abide in God, spend some time with him and let him direct you, Likewise, Coffee Rush, man. You have 7 different orders going on. You only got 3 cups,
Yep.
and you're being drawn in every direction. Like, keep it simple, man. Start with some simple ones. Get some of those orders off of there, and then work from there. Now it seems more manageable, but when you're
Yeah.
looking at the whole, it's overwhelming. You know what I mean? And
Oh
I
yeah.
do want to just throw a little side note in here. Coffee Rush was very fun. Okay,
Oh
so
yeah, the game's so good.
yeah, it's so good. It was my first play of Coffee Rush, and you had been telling me about it since the time that you got it, and I saw the pieces, when I came over to your house and we played some other games. But actually getting to play it was very, very, very fun, and look forward to playing some more matches that
Yeah.
on the side note, outside of the faith aspect.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think, like I said, both these games are fantastic. Coffee
so
Rush
good.
is a lot of fun, and there's man, there's so much that's coming up now as we even like just start to unpack it. Um, like with Coffee Rush, one of the things, and I think this is actually true in life, right? Like you mentioned it earlier, like the capacity element, right? I think
Yeah.
as we practice these things, as we go in, like our capacity, our ceilings do increase, right? Like my capacity now is way different than what I thought my capacity was when I was younger, right? Like I would think, oh, I'm so overwhelmed, I'm at my capacity, and I realized that wasn't even like on the 3rd floor, like my capacity has increased as I've gone and I've grown and I've stepped into deeper responsibilities and those kind of things. There's
Yep.
something fascinating about that because the way the upgrades work, right? Like, and again, like now I'm selecting these different upgrades, and I would always tell people that are, especially first time players, like your first upgrade you want is that diagonal because it's going to allow
Right.
you to cover more of the board. And I can now move diagonally where before I can only move orthogonally. And once that unlocks, all of a sudden you have more capacity because you're like, oh, I can get from point A to point B faster now because you only get 3 moves. So I can move here, boom. Now I can actually complete that order that I previously couldn't complete because I couldn't get to that tea leaf or whatever, and there's only one on the board. But then also, as you get a negative customer, or if you complete a specialty order, you get rush tokens, and these rush tokens award you more moves. And so as you're collecting rush tokens, you might spend those to be able to collect, because every time you go through a space, you get that ingredient, right? So now I'm going to use my rush tokens to collect more ingredients so that I can maximize my 3 cups to be able to get as many orders as I can. And one of the things that I do in the game is I try to maximize those specialty orders because I know those are what's going to get me more moves. And so there are little special assignments that God has us on no matter the season. Like, okay, things are a little bit frantic, but God's called me into this over here, and I'm going to go do this thing. And that's, it fills you up in a different way. And then you're like, oh, cool. Now I'm able to do a little bit more here, and I can take this on, and your capacity grows. And so like, but it's costly. So I'm telling you, bro, this is so good. I love when we start talking to upgrade in Coffee Rush. You have to have completed 3 orders, and then you pay those 3 orders. So that's 3 points because you're going to get a point per order. You pay 3 points, you get to upgrade, and the upgrade is only going to give you 2 points at the end of the game. So it essentially costs you 1 point to do the upgrade. So you serve 3 customers. Now I have the option to get an upgrade. I get the upgrade at the end of the game. I get 2 points instead of 3, so it costs me 1. There is sacrifice to growth, right? There is that pruning. There is that whole thing of like, oh man, like right now I'm in this season of growth. Like God is upgrading me, if you will, right? And it's costly because there are things that have to go. There are things that I want to do. Like there are days, I mean, Ray and I, before we were talking, I'm like, Ray, I am exhausted. I was like, I am just so tired because I went from the camp experience, and I shared 4 messages that weekend. You're working with teens. It's late nights, early mornings. My family was there. So like my kids are up and ready to go. They're like, let's go outside and play at a camp. And I'm like, I can't even feel my face right now, and you're not in your own bed, and you're out of rhythm. We're 5.5 hours away. And then you're boom, 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 boom. Then I drive back, and then boom, now I'm at Gamma and all this kind of stuff. Right. And I had a point. Oh, I was just exhausted. And then it was funny because like we do like that alone time with our boys. So our boys are off in their rooms, and I went upstairs to grab my hoodie because I'm like, dang, it's cold downstairs. And my wife was just in a blanket, like ready to go to sleep. And I was like, man, like a nap right now would be excellent. It would be so good. Right. But I'm glad my wife's getting one. Like, that's great. I'm glad she's getting one. It's amazing. But I was like, I'm going to go record a podcast, right? Like this is sacrifice. Because what I want to do is I want to just go take a nap and say, Ray, we'll record it later. And that's not an option because we have a deadline. We have a demand that needs to be met. And so it's an important thing because we've made a commitment, and this is something that we hope is edifying and would go there. So it's this commitment. So the sacrifice to upgrade, if you will, is that, I might lose some sleep along the way, but I wouldn't trade what happened over the weekend. And I wouldn't trade what happened at Gamma's house, right? It's what it is going to be from now on. It's going to be Gamma's house. I wouldn't trade any of those things for the lack of sleep that I got, right? Like that those things were all great things, and I'm glad my family got to come to the camp and all that kind of stuff. But again, I don't even know. That probably didn't even make sense. Maybe it was just a way for me to say that I'm exhausted in this podcast. So if this episode stinks, it's because I'm so tired. But it's but again, their sacrifice in the upgrade. Like you're gonna have to let things go, and that can be super hard.
Yeah, and you got to count the cost, and sometimes you 100%. Don't count the cost until after the end of the game, which is why I lost the game, because I didn't count the cost, Joe. Okay.
Yeah.
So you were telling me that it cost upgrade points. And I was like, well, I need my upgrades though. And so then when it came down time, I did like too many upgrades. And so I got negative points. And at the end of the game, I lost when actually I had been winning most of the game. And so counting that cost, a lot of times we want to say yes to things in the moment because it seems so good. It feels good. It seems like the right move to make. But at the end, it might not be the best move. You might look back and say, man, I didn't actually fully anticipate what that was going to cost me, the time, the effort, what it was going to do on constraints to other relationships and other things that I already had going on. And now these things are suffering because of that. And you might lose in another area because you didn't fully count that cost. And so that's essentially what happened. Good. It happened to me in the game, but I mean that can parallel real life as well. So before 100%. You jump into things, I think that it's great, especially me. I'm going to talk from my perspective. I am somebody who loves to help. I'm somebody who loves to encourage, who loves to be there, who loves to have his hand in everything and try to do whatever I can, wherever I can. Yeah. But then, that puts me in a place where a lot of times I just say, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah, I sure do. Let's do it. But I don't count the cost. And then I have to come back and tell my wife, she's like, what are we doing today? I forgot to tell you, I told so-and-so that I would go help them move this refrigerator downstairs at 3:00. And then I got to go on a walk over here because they want to talk about this thing. And then she's like, well, where's my time? And it's like, I didn't really count that cost very well, did I? I'm losing right now.
No, okay. That's real. Well, and again, I remember saying it as you're playing, you made that third upgrade, and I was like, oh, it was your first time playing. So when I'm playing somebody for the first time, I'm totally good with offering strategy. I don't care. I just want to have fun. And I was like, generally when I play the game, I tend to stay at 2 upgrades, unless I'm fulfilling orders like crazy. Right. And I'm like, and it's again, these are the 2 I centered on because the game moves so quickly that you spend a lot to get that 3rd or 4th upgrade, and it might not be as advantageous. Because if I remember correctly, I'm the one that forced the end of the game because I had all 5, and I ended up winning by 3 or 4 points because even though I got all those negative points, I still was completing enough orders, and I only stopped at 2 upgrades where you and Michael both went into that 3rd. I don't think you guys got 4 upgrades, but you had that 3rd upgrade, which again, that means along the way you lost 3 points because you spent all 3. But you just hit a thumbs up.
I have no idea how that.
That's amazing. It's the overlords. The cats are sending the thumbs up over there. That's amazing. Somebody's hitting a mouse.
That's a good message, Joe. That's a good message. That's what that's saying.
But again, it was that moment where it's Ray, you're overextending yourself here. And I'm just telling you because I want you to know in the future, really, you probably just because the way how quickly the game moves, you're only going to probably want to pick 2 of these upgrades, not 3, right? And so and again, there's other things and other reasons. And a lot of times I play those games, I lean into the pace. That's my personality. My personality is, like I said, I don't really pay attention. Oh, I'm going to lose these cards. That's fine. If I can force the end game, that's fine with me. I'll force the end game because I'm going to go at a pace that might outpace. I play Lodge that way. Lodge is a lot of fun. I play that game where I just seek to outpace everybody. And I don't worry so much. And actually, it's funny because Luke from Love Thy Nerd, he noticed it. He's like, when you play, he's like, you play very like you don't care about like, is this customer on the right floor or not? He's like, you just move. And he's like, and it's interesting. He's like, that's probably how the game is designed to be played. But a lot of us are all analyzing everything and we're AP.
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, but simultaneously the games are always close. But I just have this like method where I move. And so I was playing a bunch of people and that's what I was doing. But I also had a great round where everything was working. So when I pulled someone out, it was on the right floor and all that jazz. But it's like, that's how I lean into games like that. I'm like, well, the pace is frantic. So I'm going to play frantically. I'm not going to focus so much on, can I get everything done? I'm just going to focus on, I got to get things done. And if I can force the game to end faster, I might just beat you because you were trying to develop something that you didn't get to develop. And in that game, I know that to be true a lot of times. And so when you and Michael both hit that third upgrade, I pretty much knew. I was like, okay, I think I have the win here because I'm now focusing on orders, not upgrades. You know what I mean? And so I'm just knocking out orders. I don't even care about the upgrades. I denied that every single time because I already had my 2. It only cost me 2 points in the long run. So now I'm just going to get my orders and I'm going to force the end game. And so, but again, that's just my personality. That's what I do. Now, again, I'm not saying that's a great life strategy.
Something too in that though, like you said, for me, it's the first game, and you're like, you're very, very generous, and that for first time players, and you want to counsel them and give them wise counsel. And so I would say, even in real life, that have somebody in your life that will give you wise counsel to say like, hey, this might not be advantageous for you to do this thing, like you're that voice of reason in the game. Of course you were like, this is how I do it. You weren't necessarily saying like, you basically were like, you make your own choice, that's kind of thing. But having somebody on your side like that is so key to success. Like, there's success in the multitude of many. And so, you go through Proverbs and it talks about kings and having people around them and the wise counsel and those friends that stick closer to a brother like Jesus. And they're going to tell you like, this is what's important. These are the things that you should do and the moves that you should make. And so I just want to, as you were speaking, hit that point there for people to have those others in their life as they're going, and there are demands being put on them by life and demands by other people, to have somebody in your corner that you can say, hey, what do you think about this? That will help you see the long run, the cost, what it's going to cost you, and what the outcome possibly could be to run that down,
100%. That was my buddy Don for me. I mean, eventually, like, because I was just saying yes to everything when I first like came to Christ, dude. I'm like, I'm single. I'm like, I devoted to the Lord. Like, I'm gonna do whatever. And eventually, I was overextending myself, and my buddy Don was like, he stopped asking me for things, and I was like, that's weird. Like, Don stopped asking me to show up to things, and I'm like, oh no, what did I do? And you almost kind of think like you messed something up,
right?
But actually, he told me, like, when I went to him and I said, hey, like, I'm noticing this, and he was like, yes. He's like, I realized you were running yourself ragged. He's like, so I actually, because he had a lot of influence in the church, still does, but he had a lot of influence in that church, and he was just like, I started telling people to stop asking you to do things, and I stopped bringing you into certain things, and I would bring you into other things, right? But not nearly as much, because I realized that you're just so eager to serve that you're just saying yes to everything. And he's like, dude, you're not giving your best yes, right? You're just straight up in it because you just want to do it. You're like, yes, okay, cool, you need that done, I'm going to go do it. You know what I mean? Like, let's go figure it out. And he's like, and that's just not healthy for you. And it was kind of cool because he didn't like thrust that on me. He kind of waited for me to figure it out and like go to him and be like, hey, I noticed that there's a dynamic that shifted here a little bit. Like, could I do something? And it actually just opened the door for a dope combo. And he's also the other guy, like the same guy that was like, dude, you need to get a list. You need to get organized. And that really, like, once I took that to heart, it unlocked a lot of that administrative function that God has used exponentially more than my other giftings, I would say, right? Like, he's just brought that out. And it's exactly to your point, like just somebody that was willing to say, dude, no, like you have to learn how to say no. And since you can't, I'm going to for you. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then, but then I learned, I learned that lesson the hard way. Right. And so this kind of continuing the conversation again, like there's a difference between living by design versus living by demand, right? We've kind of unpacked some of that, right? And in Coffee Rush, right, these orders are coming at you. You're not choosing them, right? You're managing urgency. The pressure is external. Everything's just outside forces, right? Like we talked about it. If Ray completes an order, again, the thumbs up. This is great. I think, is your mouse upstairs? fires? Like, no, you're good.
No, I think it's like,
you're doing that. It's
yeah,
it's a screen. That's hilarious. I love it.
yeah.
So like,
Technology's crazy.
yeah. That doesn't do it on my end. So like, you have these like moments where it's like, yeah, Ray completes an order. Now I'm getting an order. And like, we talk like, oh my gosh, now it feels like I have to keep up with the Joneses, man. Like I got to like do all
Mm-hmm.
this stuff. And so like that pressure becomes external. And I think a lot of people, like a lot of believers do live this way, right? Like there's expectations, there's crisis, there's all these kind of like, you're living in urgency. And I've had this conversation as a leader in different spaces where you've had to tell people like, hey, look, like I understand that this is an emergency in your world, but like you're hoisting your emergency on to other people. Like you're making
Mm-hmm.
your emergency someone else's emergency because you didn't plan properly. I'm not talking about emergency like someone's hurt. I mean like you have this urgency now in this crisis because you didn't plan. And so as a result, you're now taking this in, or because, whatever, like those things happen. Like you didn't do the thing you were supposed to do. And as a result, it's like now it's, I need this urgency from everybody else. And so now it's become my emergency because you failed to plan or you did those kind of things,
Mm-hmm.
etc. And I've had to have those conversations as a leader where it's like, look, like this should have been on your calendar 6 months ago. And
Right.
we even talked about it, like these kind of things, like what's going on and how come these things didn't happen and then all of a sudden it's just like you're bombarded by that. And so some of this stuff is it's unavoidable, right? Sometimes these things happen, but how do we manage those moments well? And if we're living by design versus living by demand, and not being like just struck into the urgency all the time, we're no longer going to be reactive, right? Like our
Mm-hmm.
calling is not reactive, it's intentional. They always say what, schedule 80% of your week, because 20% is going to be like things popping up, people coming into your office, problems that are going to occur, not being so booked in your schedule that like if there's no margin, if something happens, I'm completely toast. And
Right.
some weeks are like that. I'm not gonna lie, man. I feel like that's real in my world. Where some weeks I'm scheduled to like 99.999% of bacteria will be killed when you take this little, like that's how it feels sometimes. And then there's other times where I'm like, okay, this week I can actually schedule out 70% of my week and
Yeah.
leave margin. Right, which is great. That's very rare. I mean, I'm probably usually more in the 80, 85, 90 range, and then I have those weeks of like 100%. But it's like, if you look at like Fliptoons, right, just to run the contrast is like this rewards intentional cohesion, right? Like the game rewards that because you have certain cards that, like, if you're strategic, you're like, this card's gonna flip that card, and then I have a card that I can stack on top of the flip card, and then I have a card that I can stack on top of that card. So now I'm getting more cards out, more things accomplished, and I'm able to get more of those victory points in order because I've built that out. I'm being very intentional in that. Where like Coffee Rush, the pressure is external and responsiveness, it's reactionary.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I remember at one point it was like, what the heck? Like you completed 3 orders or someone did, or 2, like, and it just all of a sudden I'm like, dude, my top row or my middle row has got like 7 coffees in it.
Yeah.
Like,
Like
and now I'm just like,
what?
what do you do? And you're just trying to do it so they don't all fall off because you don't want 7 negative points. You're like, well, I can do
Mm-hmm.
these things. And so it's like, which one describes your spiritual life? Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, are you reactionary or are you intentional? Are you building by design, or are you like just literally like in this responsiveness mode and living by demand and allowing things to happen to you, right? Like where it's like, I think there's like an intentionality here. Now, the Lord guides our steps, right?
Right.
Like man plans, but the Lord guides our steps. Like this is real, right? And there are things, curveballs happen, things you don't expect, they occur. Those things are very real. Sometimes you're going to be reactionary. Period. Like
That's right.
that is
Yep.
real. Like it's
Yep.
going to happen. But it's the same thing I've taught in youth ministry for a long time. I know you've heard me say this, dude. As it is up to you, right? Like be as proactive as you can. Same thing like when we would prepare for camps and all that kind of stuff. I was like, dude, we want to prepare as much as we can on the front end, so that way during camp we're just calling audibles and putting out fires, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're not dealing with all the other stuff because we've dealt with it. We've gotten as proactive as we possibly can, so that now we're just dealing with the things that come versus everything, right? And so, like, again, looking at that from our spiritual life, right? Like, are you suiting up in the armor of God? Are you preparing yourself to go into battle of the day-to-day life, right? Ephesians 2:10 says that we're prepared for good works, right? like
That's right.
that God is preparing us for good works, that we're his handiwork, right? That we're his
Yep.
workmanship.
His workmanship. Yeah.
And so it's this beautiful thing that like God has prepared, right? God has been like, yo, I got my saints, I prepared them for good works. I built these things out. And Jesus says, dude, that we would be salt and light. So what? That people would taste and see that God is good and glorify our Father who is in heaven. When what? When they see our good deeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is a beautiful thing. And like when you look at the life of Jesus, you know, Jesus didn't allow demand to override design, right? Like they'd be like, "Oh, everyone's looking for you," and Jesus is like, "Ah," or like I think we've talked about it before, even with like Lazarus. It's like, dude, Lazarus is dead, you know, and he's
Mm-hmm.
like, but they're like, Lazarus is sick, he's dying, and he's like, all right, bro, we're gonna wait like 4 more days, and then the
Yeah.
people are like, what, you know, like why are we doing this, you know? And Jesus would just walk in those timed spaces. He was methodical in that.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there were also moments where things just happened, and Jesus saw the crowd and had compassion on them. He's on his way to go take a nap or get away, right? I don't say take a nap, but he's on his way to go pray, and like he's exhausted, it says, and he like has he's mourning. He just learned that John the Baptist was beheaded, right? And like now he's mourning. He's wants to get away, but he sees the crowd and he has compassion on them. All of a sudden, that
Mm-hmm.
plan is a little bit more reactionary, right? I don't, from his perspective, I don't know, but like it feels a little bit more reactionary. He looks at the crowd, he has compassion, and
Mm-hmm.
he goes and he ministers. This stuff matters, right? Like it's intentionality. So
Yep.
again, our plans do get mixed up. There's no question.
Yep.
However, are we focusing on the day to day? Do we have a plan? Are we moving in this thing? Are we built or busy? Because we can all be busy for the kingdom,
Yep.
right? We're not all productive, right? We can all do things. We can all just be like, oh, I'm doing this and I'm doing that and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I'm like,
That's
oh yeah,
right.
cool. And you look or appear on the outside as someone who's super spiritual, who's doing all this stuff. But at the end of the day, is it productive? Is it what God would call you to do? Right? Do you have good cards in your hand, but are they the
Right.
right cards? Like, like all that kind of stuff. And I think that stuff really matters. So it's like, are we more structured around calling or urgency?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Noting that there's urgency within the calling, but but for the sake of like pacing, let's say, are you structured around calling or urgency? Do we feel guilty, right? Like you said, do
Mm-hmm.
we feel guilty when we don't fill every order, right? Because we're people pleasers and we want to do right, and we know that our witness and what we say and what we do, it matters, and it wears on the reputation, as we talked about earlier. I think there's
Right.
a way to handle this, and this is awareness, and this is giving your best yes and not saying yes to everything, right? So that I don't have all these orders to fulfill because I've actively said no, I can't do this.
Yep.
And again, I'm not always super great at that. How do we differentiate between opportunity and assignment? Because not every opportunity is an opportunity we need to go into, and some are flat out, they're in alignment with what we're doing. They are a part of the assignment, and that is
Right.
something that we need to seek the Lord on and be
Yep.
diligent in that conversationally. And again, asking the question, what would it look like to live more design driven, right? Where we were
Mm-hmm.
just literally laying these things down and being intentional. And you said it early on. You said being still, sitting down at God's feet, and actually asking Him what He would
Mm-hmm.
want us to do. Now
Absolutely.
we know the general stuff, right? We
Mm-hmm.
know generally what God wants us to do, but are we committing our day to day? And we've talked about this, I think, in the past. We've had some
Yep.
other conversations, but
For
these
sure.
games really drew this out, right? And so like. I think there's a lot, and I'm trying to check our time here. Sorry, so that way we're not going over all the stuff. But um synopsis a little bit here is like Fliptoons is strategic. Like even though it's got some randomness to it because you don't necessarily know, but you have a market you're buying from. You're being very intentional. You build towards
Mm-hmm.
this coherent engine. Every dismissal strengthens synergy. Like you're trying to be very smart so that at the end you get the most best flip because you score and win the game based on your final flip. It's
Right.
based on the final flip. It's not based on every flip leading up to it. It's the final flip. And that
Yep.
final flip is what's going to do that. And so like you want to have that clarity and increases as your focus increases. And so like you really want to dial that in. And so like we know this to be true, that a spiritual life, right? A scattered life produces exhaustion, but a
Mm-hmm.
focused life produces clarity. Like we know this to be true. right? So like spiritually, right? Like, are we living a scattered life and then wondering why we're so burnt out or so
Mm.
exhausted,
Yeah, that's
right?
good.
You know,
Yep.
or are we focused on a life, or are we living a focused life that produces clarity? I know the mission and I know what I need to do. And so then, therefore, I move into it. I move into those spaces. Um, yeah, you don't accidentally build synergy, right? Like you choose it. Like this
That's
isn't
right.
you don't. I mean, I suppose you could stumble accidentally into something synergistic, but generally
Yeah.
you're creating something synergistically. You know, where Coffee Rush is all about survival under pressure, Fliptoons is about intentional construction.
Yeah.
Um,
And both of them, they're even in your planning and best planning. There's a randomness to that, which is true of life when you were just going back and talking about margins, planning your
yeah,
week and making sure there, and the best laid plans and everything that you can do and walking in step with the Lord, there is still life that happens. There is a
right.
randomness that happens. You can
Mm-hmm.
have the best cards, but like you just said, it's not you don't get a choice on how you stack those cards, how you play and what comes out.
Yep.
It is random. There's a randomness to what orders you get. You can have a ton of ingredients off to the side and you got 3 cups, but you don't know what order is coming out. And
Yep.
such is the same in life that there's a randomness to each day. You can plan as best that you can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why it's important to stay in step with God because there's that randomness that's going to happen. And when those times happen, you said this before, when you're shaking, what's going to come out of you
Yeah.
is what's inside of you. So we need to make sure that we're staying in a spot where Jesus is inside of us.
Yep.
So when we're shaken by the randomness of life, that is what comes out and not something else, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that's another parallel to highlight as you were speaking about planning your weeks and planning what you're saying yes to and
Yeah.
saying no to and all the things. It's just another 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 response to say let's stay close to Jesus and keep him
Mm-hmm.
within us and have that Holy Spirit guiding us, right?
Yeah. And to your point, I lost Fliptoons the other day by 2 points when I was playing it at the
Mm,
camp. And the reason why I lost is because the card I really needed to come out didn't.
mm,
Right. So it's like I had built a really dope deck. Like I was very pleased with the deck I built. And I knew in order to hang with the other guy that I was going to have everything come out exactly as I needed it to. And I had
mm-hmm,
7 cards left because wasn't able to dismiss by the time the end game was ready. I wasn't able to dismiss in time. You did it again. That's amazing. I love it. And so I wasn't able to get that dismissal in time. And I had 7 cards and I could not get that out. And so as a result, or no, I had more than 7 because I had things that were stacking. Either way, it was
mm-hmm,
one card that I really needed to come out didn't, and instead like another card that I shouldn't even have had in my deck came out, and I was like, crap, I knew I should have
man,
gotten rid of the snail. Like normally
yeah,
I get rid of all my starting cards, it just didn't work out, and I was like, dang it, dude, how did I have this? And that's the one that came out, not this other card that was going to push
mm,
me up over the edge. And the guy I was playing, he knew it. Like, well, there was 3 of us, but he knew as soon as that card didn't come out, he's like, oh, I have this one because
yeah,
I know Joe needed that card. So that's that randomness. You're not all you can have a great deck, and some things might not always come out
yep,
when you need them, how you need them. And so it's like, but I would look at it like discipleship. If we compare the 2 games, discipleship is far closer to deck building than order fulfillment.
mm,
Right. But we've made discipleship, or we've made kingdom work a lot more order fulfillment. Like all this next thing, I got to do all this stuff. I have to get all these things done. But really it's about being conscientious and building out your deck, like growing in Christ, continuing to make your deck better, if you will, so
mm-hmm,
that when you're playing the cards, that they're working together, that these things are creating a synergy, that they're making the most sense. This is teamwork in general, right? This is like teamwork 101, right? People in companies want synergy among their employees. They want them communicating, they want them talking, they want them doing things together so that there's a synergy that is produced. And so it's a lot more like deck building. And so I guess some questions to leave y'all would be like, what are you actively building right now? Does your
mm,
calendar reflect your calling? So what are you actively building right now? Does your calendar reflect your calling? What needs to be removed to create better spiritual synergy? Again, look at these things metaphorically in that, but what needs to be removed to create better spiritual synergy? And are you surviving life or constructing it? And again, this doesn't remove God's work in that. It doesn't remove God's synergy or sovereignty or anything, but we are to be building these lives on the rock, and we're to be building this out, and we're going to move, and we're going to build. And so really, like, kingdom life isn't about keeping up. It's not about keeping up. It's not about, having to have all the stuff. It's about building wisely, right? Yep. Being intelligent, being smart with how you build and what you build your life on, and what you build in that, right? Like, how are you going to build on the rock? And so, because Jesus does say in that analogy that the wise who hear his words, they build their house on the rock. Like, it's not just, oh, I'm here standing on the rock. You build your house. Like, you're actually, like, that's intentional. That requires things. And you're either building on the rock or you're building on the sand. Now, again, that's salvific, but also it's, again, like Ray said, counting the costs. As Jesus said, who goes and starts to do a building project, and then is like, we're several $1,000s short because we didn't plan this out. Now, you might be several $1,000s short because the project costs you a little bit more than you thought because things happened, right? You ever watch a home renovation thing, and all of a sudden they buy this house and they're going to do a reno, and they're like, all right, the reno is going to cost us $300,000 to renovate, and then they bust open one of the walls and it's just filled with mold, and they're like, oh, by the way, we meant $500,000, not $300,000 because something came up. Yeah, lots there. But yeah, either way, man, lots to glean from Fliptoons and Coffee Rush. And you might even have more where you've played those games and you're like, oh, I saw this. I mean, I didn't even talk about the fame tracker, right? Like how fame comes and goes, right? Like it's finite. It's not worth pursuing, and it's like at the end of the day, being known by Christ is the ultimate, victory. So it's, all sorts of fun stuff that you can pull out. But maybe there's something where you're like, man, we played these games and both of them, and I saw these spiritual principles. We'd love to hear that at cbglootdrop@gmail.com. So that's cbglootdrop@gmail.com. Would love to hear from you regarding your thoughts if you play these games. Maybe there's some spiritual stuff, or just hit us up on the Discord and Facebook, all that jazzerific jazz. But
YouTube, subscribe, like, send to your friends. And go over, get registered for the Game Changer Board Gaming Retreat
of Extravaganza,
Michigan. Of Bonanza Final Frontier Fun Zone. Yeah, all right.
Final Frontier Fun Zone. Yeah, man. All right, cool beans. So thank you for rocking with us. Like I said, I'm tired. I don't know. Oh, now it's not doing it the whole time.
When I wanted to do it, it won't do it.
Yeah, that's so good. I love it.
All right, whatever.
I don't even know what was triggering it. That's amazing.
I don't. All right.
And if you don't know what we're talking about, again, go to YouTube.
Go to YouTube.
Like all that jazz. You'll see what we're doing. Nope, not going to do it. That's amazing. But like always, we do want to leave you with something we already shared in this episode, which is Matthew 5. Let your light shine before others so they may see your good works and glorify our Father who is in heaven. Until we meet again, talk again, do something again, have a wonderful, fantastic, awesome extravaganza of a life. But what are you building your life on? Are you building it on Jesus? You being intentional? Or are we just trying to keep up with the busyness of life? So word beans. We appreciate y'all. Peace.
Yep.
Now it does it again. That's so good. That doesn't even make a lick of sense, bro.
I have no idea.